After reading this report by Harvard, it struck me. Harvard really likes morning shot.
Well, you could make that conclusion, or you could say to yourself, Harvard really likes wasting money, telling us the bleeding obvious. This was a report that apparently cater deployment, BEE, and the lack of electricity destroys economic growth in South Africa. Who knew?
Thanks for watching, everyone. So Harvard came to South Africa. They spent 3 years looking at all the issues. They spent a lot of money on 9 studies dictating what are the main issues for South Africa, why it's not growing. And basically, they came to the conclusion that the ANC is shit, they're commies, cater deployment has collapsed the state, and BEE is throttling investment. I mean, listen, I'm not a Harvard graduate. I don't intend to be a Harvard graduate, but for fuck's sakes, everyone knows this. Why spend money on bullshit that everyone knows already?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually amazing because the report itself knows that everybody else knows this. Just to highlight and to quote the report, state collapse is, of course, not news to the South African audience. Like obvious. Like, we know. We live here. So it's like, oh, look, there's a bitter pill to swallow. The ANC seems to have got a particular ideology that has destroyed the state. The report actually says this. It says it also stems from a particular ideology that prevents society from contributing to supply and social needs, for example, by limiting private, provincial, and municipal power generation. Well, who knew that ANC's control over everything and its monopoly is constraining South Africa? Well, I never. I mean, welcome to South Africa.
I mean, this is like Joe Biden going to a psychologist and the psychologist saying, yeah, he has dementia and should be in an old age home. No one's going to be like, oh my word. Who would have thought? Everyone knows the guy belongs in an old age home. But anyway, we don't work for Harvard and we don't get paid millions of dollars to make reports like this. We just do content on the internet and they get paid to copy it. So let's go through this with a bit more detail. Number one, what are the big issues around South Africa? Number one, cater deployment has destroyed the civil service. Yes, this is something we all know. Cater deployment, i.e. sending your friends and retards to the state, destroys those state institutions. We know this very well. The DA has gone court to try to stop cater deployment. They've got minutes of the cater deployment committee meetings, which apparently don't exist and then do exist, but then don't exist once again. Cater deployment is at the heart of state collapse in South Africa. And Harvard agrees with us. Hallelujah.
Yeah. And Harvard even has a solution for it. To quote, maybe we should do a more merit-based system rather than the one that is overly influenced by politics, the report says. Well, no shit.
But because it's Harvard, they say, well, Eskom's a big problem and it can't generate electricity. So the solution, therefore, is like green energy. Of course, it's Harvard saying green energy is the future. Greta Thunberg probably wrote these particular sentences. No, the solution to load shedding is not green energy. The solution is just fix the coal power stations and bring Kuba back online. Then load shedding's done. Not rocket science. Even the ANC can do it, but they choose not to.
But I mean, Harvard also notes that South Africa has a housing problem, specifically amongst the homeless. We all know the homeless that I'm referring to, the squatter camps. Anyway, they actually said that there is actually a way to fix this. It says what South Africa needs to do is relax its overly restrictive building and zoning regulations, because that would allow it to create more housing. That these should be determined locally and not by the national or provincial government. This would incentivize local people to actually build cities from the ground up and actually house individuals, because they're the individuals that live in their cities. So again, don't take a centralist commie position. Just allow your communities to build themselves up organically. Well, Roman, that sounds like something we've been saying for 2 years.
Blow me over with a feather, but they don't stop there. They say the big problem is people live too far away from CBDs or where they work. The problem is the commute is terrible. The trains don't work. They have to rely on taxis. There's no public transport. So what the ANC needs to do is make the trains run on time and create more public transport. Yes, we know this. The ANC knows this. Transnet has disappeared. PRASA has collapsed because they built the wrong train for the wrong track. I don't know which world you live in, but retard-danistan is real. They don't listen to reason.
So the report actually concludes that a lot of these suggestions are no-brainers. They actually say maybe things like BEU isn't actually for the best of the country, because what we actually need to do is we need to, and I quote, recruit talent nationally and deploy individuals based on their merits and their capabilities. Well, I never, Ramon. I never. Who knew that race quotas weren't the way to go in modern South Africa, and what we actually need to do is just use all the local talents in order to get the best outcomes? Well, apparently, as this report says, for many South Africans, these suggestions are no-brainers. But apparently there weren't no-brainers to Harvard, who needed a shitload of money and a lot of years of study to determine what all of us just knew anyway.
Well, they are no-brainers to people with brains. We all need to tilt away from Eskom, but optimizing solar panels can be quite tricky. However, thanks to Solar Tilt, that problem is now in the past. Very much like Eskom. Solar Tilt's unique, patented system lets you tilt your solar panels towards the sun, which optimizes energy production throughout the entire day. And it can be installed on any roof type as well. Solar Tilt is made in South Africa for South African conditions, therefore making it almost impossible to steal thanks to its anti-theft brackets. Being proud patriots, Solar Tilt is made in South Africa for South Africans. So tilt away from the darkness and into the light with Solar Tilt. For more info, check out their website and Facebook page, which is linked below.